And that's the new outlook there of New Day, brand new day. And I love that Esther Smith song. Good morning to you. Good morning to all of you. That Esther Smith song. Was Hannah Mafu?
That's Hannah Mafu.
Oh, yeah.
I think that the voice sounds similar.
Yeah, they sound similar. I mean, that was Hannah Mafu, right?
But, you know, today it's still like this, and it was interesting to hear that song, because we haven't heard it in a long time,
exactly.
and the words of the song, like we keep saying, it carries the spirit, and so you feel like, yes, you're going along with God, unlike the recent ones where Johnny says, they say only unbreakable.
It's not so unbreakable, unbreakable.
Unbreakable. What word is that?
No, it's unbreakable. Like they want to say spirit.
Oh.
They don't say spirit, they say spirit.
But spirit and spirit are not the same, unless they fail to understand what the English word means. But
spirit.
That's what Johnny will mind. But good morning, guys. How was your night?
George, how are you doing?
Awesome, was good.
It was good for you.
But one thing is, I know you guys follow the presidential encounter, and it was quite pathetic. We could not answer any questions.
Yeah.
Media General.
Yes, I mean, we're not given an opportunity to ask any question, and to think that, well, you'd have people, you know, ask questions, and we were not given an opportunity because there are 3 of our people there. So how we were not given a chance to ask a question, I find. I thought that there was supposed to be an even distribution of opportunity for everybody to ask. I remember that last year when, the previous year, I think former President Mohammed's time, the questions came that, well, we should allow for these things to be held in other regions so that we can have a fair representation. There was only one person, I think, from the Ashanti region who was able to ask one,
first
from
to ask the question.
Bona Hafu region as well, just only one. And so you're wondering what happens to the other regions.
Exactly.
And to think that we, for example, Media General, have affiliates in these regions, and that we were streaming live on air and online, and that's, if we had asked a question, it could have represented the interest of those people, and we're not given a chance to ask a question. I don't know what went into it, because I think that the question time was pretty short, and the president's prelude was way too long. It was about 47 minutes or so, 45, 47-ish. And I thought that, well, it was too long. But hey, I'm only a small boy. What do I know?
No, you certainly, because Johnny, if we don't talk about it, then certainly the Ministry of Information wouldn't know how to go about the next one. So it's not just about the talking, but they should really go into it, because the first one we had, I remember they said we're going to learn from this and improve it. I'm happy, yes.
What did we learn from this one?
Exactly, because I didn't see anything different, really. And like you said, the president's introduction, I don't know if it was necessary for yesterday, because yesterday was certainly a meet the press, where we thought that 1 hour that you'd given was small for meeting the press. But of course, even if we give 10 hours, I'm sure it will be small. But if you're locating it to the media to come and ask questions, then I don't think that was the platform for the president to give such a speech. And then also, like you said, it should be fair representation, where everyone, at least, we know not everybody can speak, but if you know there are media groups represented, so at least one from each of these groups should be allowed to speak. But because sometimes you come to the same group has about 3 people, 2 people speaking. And I heard Honorable Kojo Opon Nkrumah in the evening on the news trying to explain it away, that they were trying to give opportunity for those who didn't have the opportunity in the previous one. But it didn't really show our fairness, because that's not what happened. We had EIB asking questions last year. We had EIB asking.
Let's not mention group names. I'm saying
these are examples, which is obvious. Everyone who watches knows.
The issues of last year are totally different. If you listen to the president's prelude for last year, it's totally different from this year. More like trumpeting the achievements of the government of the previous year. Now, if you're looking in that direction, how do you say that the explanation is that those who couldn't ask questions last year were given an opportunity to ask this year? In any case, those who asked questions last year got a chance to ask questions this year as well. So I don't buy it. Kojo Opon Nkrumah, please come again. You're one of us. You're a media person. And irrespective of what your position is in government, I expect that some of these explanations just do not come from people like you, because the encounter is supposed to be with the media. I know that there's a monthly Meet the Press series where we have every ministry properly represented. The achievements, which were drawn from these ministries could have been inculcated in that particular encounter. This was a time for us. I mean, we're kickstarting the year. We want to ask questions because there are fallouts from the previous year. We didn't get a chance to ask a question. And most of the things that were asked there were more like praise singing and were not questions. I mean, if somebody puts a question that, well, we've had a lot of presidents coming into this country, and what accounts for that? Really? really. Yesterday I spoke with Shaibu Yusuf, a lecturer at the Ghana Institute of Journalism, and he thought that, well, some of the questions they didn't really pass.
And John, you know something?
They didn't pass for questions.
You know the duration was short, but the ministry justified it that the president had other engagement. Couldn't you have done this a day where maybe the president was free, like getting all the day with the
but you see, whatever it is, if the president really wants to meet the press, as we're being made to believe, number one, the president won't spend 60% or 70% of the time speaking and telling us what is achievement, because even within those achievements, there are questions that came. For example, we're talking about the Brazil, the white paper that was generated. And someone asked if the president is interested. Well, with interest comes a lot of other things, because there are things in there that must be implemented. So when the president says that he perhaps has forgotten about it, I would have wished to ask a follow-up about that. So you invite, what's the point? Inviting everybody there and then having just a few of them. I'm not saying everybody could ask a question, but we should have a fair representation. Everybody would ask a question, and then we can make progress in that direction. We have been told in 2016 that we will learn something. We have been told in 2017, we have been told in 2018. I don't see any new lessons we have learned from anything. So really, I'm beginning to lose interest, even though I think it's a good concept, but I'm beginning to lose interest in the Meet the Press series. I'm beginning to lose interest in it. I must be very, very honest.
We've ranted enough this morning. It's time for me.
Oh, I'm not ranting. I'm saying good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, Honorable Mustafa Hamid, Minister for Information. And good morning to all of you at the Flagstaff House. I hope that, before the year ends, we'll have another encounter where it will be fair and everybody else will have a chance to ask a question. Good morning.
So we've got more of this and many more on news this morning. Thanks for staying. We'll start off with the presidency, where President Akufo-Addo says the office of the special prosecutor will remove the fear of partisanship and put the fear of God in persons who may want to rob the country. Answering a range of questions at an encounter with the press at the Flagstaff House yesterday, the president, however, promised to strengthen the capacity of other investigative institutions.
The encounter with the media was the second by the president since he assumed office early last year. The president recounted efforts made in his first year in office to improve the economy and accelerate development. Touching on the appointment of the special prosecutor, President Akufo-Addo was optimistic the office will deliver without fear or favor.
I'm well aware of the general sense of anxiety in the country and the strong feeling that politicians tend to get away with corrupt practices. A significant choice, though that Mr. Amidou is, I do not expect that he will provide all the answers, will deal with the phenomenon of corruption by public officials. But I do believe that at the least, the office will remove the fear of partisan prosecution and begin to put the fear of God in all public officials who are intending to go down the path of corruption. The current office holders are as likely to be investigated and prosecuted by the special prosecutor if a case is made out against them as past office holders.
He, however, promised to resource other investigative institutions. Answering a question on alleged corruption by his appointees on the infamous seat for cash saga, the president said he was satisfied with the ongoing parliamentary inquiry and explanations given by the trade minister.
I asked the Minister of Trade to give me an explanation to respond to the allegation that had been made in the public space. I was there at the occasion, and nobody had made me aware that there was anything like people buying money to sit next to me or anything. So it came as a surprise to me. And I asked for an explanation from him, and he gave me a full account of the process that had been undertaken, the monies that had been paid, the use of the monies, and I mean, a full accounting. I looked at it, I examined it with others, and was satisfied that it had responded to the allegation that had been made. And I believe the statement he made to me is the very same statement that he made to the committee. And it has been supported by virtually everybody who was involved in the organization of the event. So I believe that I was on firm ground in saying to myself that yes, an allegation has been made, it has been looked into, queries that I put on the matter have been responded to, and I'm satisfied with the quality of the responses that I have got. The fact that there is a public inquiry in it, in itself, to me, does not shake my own conviction that there was nothing untoward had taken place.
Let's still stay on the encounter, where some journalists who attended the President's second media encounter have described it as underwhelming. President Akufo-Addo's meeting with journalists sought to give stewardship for 12 months in office. Komla Kluche has the following report.
A president unfazed with attacks of corruption, despite attempts by his critics to taint him, he says.
To the claims of extortion against the trade minister and to those against the Minister for Special Development Initiatives, they have all been investigated, and no evidence has been adduced to suggest mildly perpetration of any act of corruption.
Was it a conspiracy theory?
Is there any way we can have cashew rules?
Questions thrown at him, some he answered.
I don't think that incumbency should be an advantage.
Others he appeared not in charge.
The white paper.
What?
The 2014 World Cup. That is the Commission of Inquiry white paper, the report. Mr. President, please, are you interested?
To be honest, I've forgotten about the 2014 white paper.
A walk away from the very first encounter, organizers wanted to give as much opportunity to journalists from across the country the chance to quiz the president.
Hello, Mr. President. I must say you're looking really cool and fresh.
Oh.
Some were fortunate.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. My name is...
That's King Edward. Yes, and that is the last question.
Thank you very much.
I insist.
Others attempted, but they were not given the opportunity.
My question is, this Fulani
President intends to interact with the media twice in every year. The media appeared unsatisfied with the timing, seeking for more from his appointees.
This thing about thrusting microphones in people's heads.
Unprepared to answer, his energy minister was not in the mood as he laments he was ambushed by the journalist. The media certainly is unsatisfied.
Today's encounter is one of the most underwhelming ones I have been. I mean, if you ask me what is the major takeaway, I'll struggle.
I wasn't too happy with his responses. I wasn't satisfied at all, especially about the white paper from the Jamepe Commission report concerning the 2014 World Cup. I thought that, I assumed he would have been very abreast with that, but he admitted that he didn't have all the information.
My problem really is about the kind of questions that were asked. I think that by and large, several people had major issues that they wanted to ask questions about, but the framing of questions ended up being rather too long or rather not being clear. There were a couple of times that the president himself actually had to ask for clarification.
I think that in planning this, if it is a Ministry of Information that is the key planner, they better invite interested parties, maybe the GG, the Editors Forum, and so on and so forth. Then so we have a clear-cut method. If we know that the president will speak for, say, 10 minutes as an intro, we do know, and so on and so forth. But if it is, as you may want to call it, a State of the Nation address in disguise or a budget statement in disguise before the questions follow, I can understand that it disarms certain people.
But the Deputy Minister of Information, Kojo Nkrumah, explains lessons have been drawn from the second encounter.
If we had a lot more time, we would have had a lot more questions. But within the time frame that we had, within the constraints, we had questions from journalists from all over the country dealing with issues that matter to various parts of the country. I think that this can only get better.
Komla Kluche, TV3 News, Accra.
A senior lecturer at the Political Science Department of the University of Ghana, Professor Jambo, has expressed disgust over the media's performance at the presidential encounter. Most of the questions, he said, were not good enough to pin the president. He thinks it would be more productive if the president interacts directly with the citizenry.
Professor Ransford Jampo was disappointed in the media for the abysmal performance, especially in the line of questioning.
Because apart from a few journalists or media personnel who asked very good questions, the rest were not asking any meaningful question. The questions were so shallow and they were not seasoned with any research, and they were questions that any president could easily answer. And over the years, that has been the trend, and so no president becomes scared of such a platform.
To him, there were more critical issues that needed answers from the president.
The 1992 Constitution is 25 years old. It has undergone a review. We spent huge sums of the taxpayers' money to undergo the review process, to subject that document to review. This administration came in and we don't know what is happening to the Constitution review process. Have we abandoned the process? Is the president doing something about the proposals for reform? What are we doing about it? You expect a journalist who thinks about Ghana to ask this question.
Professor Jampo feels the media failed in representing the people.
Somebody may be born from day one to the time the person will die. He will never have the privilege of meeting the president. And so if you have the privilege to meet the president, then you should be able to ask questions that borders on the lives of people. Again, some people went there with their questions already prepared. And I'm saying, yes, you should conduct research and prepare your question. But if somebody asks a question and the answer that is given is not so convincing, you are required as a smart journalist to shelve your own question, to ask a follow-up question in relation to what has been asked earlier by your colleague, so that you pin the president.
To him, it would serve a better purpose if the program is scrapped.
If you guys would go and indirectly sing his praises, I don't think you are doing a lot of good to Mother Ghana. It's about me, the press, and I'm saying that media people worth their salt must be able to research and ask thought-provoking and scrutinizing questions to subject the president to strict proof, because this is a very credible and serious accountability platform. You guys, you either sit up to seize the opportunity, or let us scrap this whole arrangement and revert to the one that the president would meet the people one-on-one. Because I'm sure if the president go to Makola, he would be able to receive thought-provoking questions regarding issues that border on the lives of the ordinary people.
Away from the president's second media encounter, let's move to the Ashanti region, where the Asantehene Otumfuo Osei II has honored media giant, Media General, for its extensive and excellent coverage of the final funeral rites of the late Queen Mother of the Asante Kingdom, Nana Efia Kobisa Wampem II. Led by TV3 Network, Media General provided days of live coverage of the final funeral rites to highlight the rich tradition and culture of the kingdom to the world. The company was presented with a citation at a ceremony at the Meisha Palace to recognize the exemplary services provided by organizations and personalities during the event. The citation expressed appreciation for TV3's loyal and dedicated services to Asanteman. TV3 and its sister networks 3FM, Onuya FM, Connect FM, Akuma FM, and 3news.com provided viewers, listeners, and readers with in-depth coverage of the 15-day event to bid farewell to the late Asantehene. Regional Bureau Editor of Media General Kofi Edu-Domfe, who received the citation on behalf of the company, expressed gratitude to Otumfuo. Media General focused on the Asante Kingdom throughout the days of the burial and final funeral rites because of the significance in exposing the new generation to the rich African cultural heritage. The Asante Queen Mother, who was mother to the Asante Hene, died in December 2016 at the age of 111. In other news, 300 females have been selected from the 10 regions of Ghana to benefit from an ICT project dubbed Girls Can Code. This is to bridge the gender information and communication technology gap in the country. Here's a report by Eva Atiboka.
Code project started in Paris 3 years ago and has now been introduced in Ghana. It is expected to develop women's interest in ICT. Recognizing the role of ICT in all spheres of development, President and CEO of Heritage and Cultural Society of Africa, Johanna Odonkos Favinkir, said the project will be of immense benefit to female pupils.
30 girls from each of the chosen schools will do 2 hours a week of training in coding and entrepreneurship as an after-school activity. During their summer break, the most able coders will attend a boot camp to learn more and compete with each other and develop applications with what they have learned.
Organized in collaboration with UNESCO, officials emphasized on the need for ICT literacy among women.
It's not only about making up, it's not only about dressing nice, it's not only about spending so much time and posting pictures on social media. Being cool is about being intelligent. It's about being creative. It's about reaching to your highest goals and endeavors. Your intelligence will make you cool. It will take you places. And your passion will definitely make you hot.
A Deputy Minister of Communications, Vincent Soa Odote, and other stakeholders believe ICT can change the fortunes of females the world over in terms of development.
We are living in a world dominated by software, which has become the language of the world, and we must ensure that our technology workforce is well versed and fluent in this language in order to remain competitive and relevant in the global market.
Commissioning the project, the First Lady Rebecca Akufo-Addo emphasized the importance of ICT education for women.
Indeed, the emerging digital economy offers developing countries like Ghana an opportunity to take a quantum leap in development by transforming the economy into a high value-added information and knowledge-based economy. One sure way of doing this is for us to incorporate ICT into our educational system.
Some girls already coding with ICT in different fields are impacting on the lives of many other females. The First Lady was hopeful that the gender parity in economics, politics and other male-dominated fields will be bridged.
And that's it by way of news this morning.
We plan to give you a beautiful morning with those throwbacks. I'm sure when you hear that song, you just remember your young days, and you can even do those steps brothers were doing there. Charlie, when we close today, maybe I'll stand for that reason. But let's do headlines now. Let's start off with Ghanaian Times. It says, Chachu Chikata, NIB clash at the Supreme Court. Also, special prosecutor will prosecute past present corrupt officials. That came from the president. Also, government will have to soon decide on the Gitmo 2. And then finally, the president declares that his appointees are not corrupt. Johnny. So all this happened yesterday, mainly, I mean, the president talking about special prosecutor, talking about corruption, all that happened when he met the press yesterday. But I, for one, would like to go back to the whole agenda of meeting the press. What I think maybe moving forward, the Ministry of Information can do is probably to sift or choose ahead of time the people they will select to speak, to ask questions. And so if, let's say, Media General is going to be present and we tell you that, yes, we would allow one person, we know we're channeling all our questions to Johnny to go and ask. And of course, like you know, Mr. Jampo said, you have a lineup of questions. And so when someone asks the question you plan on asking, you can just tick it off as asked. If you think there's a follow-up that needs, there's a question that needs a clarification and it is on your list, you can rephrase it and then put it back to the president and then get answers to that. Otherwise, I think it's going to be a back and forth where we think people are asking baseless questions, where people are just wasting time shouting the praises or singing the praises of the president. That's certainly not the agenda that was set out for yesterday.
I think, I mean, I may, you know, slightly disagree with Dr. Jampo when he says that, well, if you ask a question and it's not clear enough and the answers haven't come, I should go and ask a follow-up question. There are so many other questions that could be put. Right. So it behoves on, again, the organizational process to afford as many people as possible. Look at the hall. Look at how many people were there and journalists. And you could see their hands up almost throughout the time. And the culture of, oh, I know this one, then and you mentioned them by names, and which is what we saw yesterday and previously. So the hands go up, and then they look at it and say, oh, okay, you, and they say, okay, let's have Ben, let's have George. That culture should go. Exactly. We should have everybody ask questions legitimately. For example, Honorable Minister for Information, Mustafa Hamid, said the question time was over. At the time, Komla Kluche had gotten up to go and ask a question. He said the question time was over. And then Komla turned away to go back to his seat. And another person got up and he was given the opportunity to ask questions. Double standard. Because if the question time, as you said, is originally over, it is over for everybody. It doesn't matter. It doesn't know anybody. But as soon as you allow another person to ask a question, when you have turned another person away, then it means that there's some form of, you know, favoritism, if you will, that we don't know about. And I think that is unfair to think that Media General, 6 media houses bumped into one, didn't even get a chance to ask one simple question. And it's not just us. There are people who traveled all the way from, say, Ashanti region, of Bonafo region, Central region, Western region, who couldn't ask a question. So what's the essence of they coming? Is it for them to come and sit and listen and go and do a story which would then be a PR thing for the government, or what? They bring the representation of the people. And Professor Jampo says, well, if the president went to Makola, for example, I mean, that was a swipe at the media. But I don't blame him, because the kind of questions that some people put, some of our colleagues put out there, was not proper. In any case, I think that moving forward, the encounter should be largely for the media. So not to have the president come and make a long speech and then give the media very short time to ask questions. That's the first thing we should do. Number 2, I think that we should start moving the thing to the regions, so that, as A.C. Ohene says, it doesn't become like a State of the Nation address in disguise, or like a budget statement in disguise. We should take it to the regions if we really want to meet the people. And if you, right now in Ghana, we have close to 500, maybe more, 500 radio stations alone. So if you are inviting the media, who are you inviting? Who are you picking out, and who are you leaving? That's the question. And the Minister of Information knows this. The NCA knows this. So what's the point?
But Johnny,
what is the point?
You mentioned a point about the follow-up questions. I actually agree with Mr. Jampo, because sometimes there's a question where the answer the president will give you is not satisfactory, in the sense that you could still delve deeper into it. Like we talked about this when they asked about the white paper. After the president had, you know, said, well, he particularly had not delved into it, if I should say, or he had forgotten about it. And so, supposing he's to know about it now, is he willing to implement what it says? Because he's saying he's forgotten about it doesn't mean he doesn't know a few things or the details about it. And so we need to put him to that point where he can give a solid or concrete answer that we can hold him to. I think because it's not just to give flippant answers or just to give an idea of something, but we want answers.
I think that the question is, the solution to that problem is framing the question properly. If you ask the president whether he's interested, if the president wanted to be very, very, you know, sly, he could say, yes, I'm interested. And that ends it, because that was a close-ended question. But you should ask him if he's interested in implementing the recommendations in it. So you could ask that question. I mean, some of them, the preambles that preceded the questions were so needless. You took like 2 minutes or 1 minute, 30 seconds, or maybe 3 minutes to ask a question that had no basis, that had no bearing. And you kept saying, Mr. President, this and that, and you look good, and you, what's all that? So we I think that the media didn't really serve the interest of the people out there yesterday. And for those who didn't get a chance to ask the question, I feel a pain. But that's all we can do. There's nothing more we can do. If the minister doesn't know your face and doesn't call you, what do you do?
Certainly.
What do you do? What do you do about it?
You only go home and cry.
Yes, you go home and cry. Like, or the minister says that the question time is over, and yet he asks you to go and sit down and calls another person. What do you do? Do you fight him? No. You can't fight him.
You just act a dog.
Yes, you can. In the meantime, we were putting out everything all across our platform. It was on 3FM 92.7. It was on Unia FM 95.1. It was on Connect FM in Takrady 97.1. Good morning to our guys there. It was in Akuma FM. It was on TV3. It was on 3news.com. It was online on Facebook. Everywhere. It was on Twitter as well on our Periscope. So what's the point? Not even a single question. And you know that in terms of media ratings in this country, we are up there on the ladder. So what's the point? Not even a single question. Not even a single question. That's so embarrassing. Not a single question. Why? Why?
But the president also talked about corruption, and I was interested in that part because he does say that even though he opens himself up by saying every accusation or allegation against you know, an official would have to be investigated, he rightly said, to the best of his knowledge, all those who have been alleged have gone through, you know, a form of inquiry, and he's satisfied with the responses he has received, such as the cash receipt that is currently under probe. But
that's the follow-up Mr. Kwesi Pratt asked him, Senior Kwesi Pratt. He asked the question that, look, what's the basis for the president's clearance of these allegations? And just saying that you know that they are not corrupt, perhaps is not enough. What is it that you know that we don't know, which would give you? Because there are people who share, what do you call it, other views that, well, these things perhaps happened, and so they will constitute corruption. And so, on what basis? I didn't get the answer the president gave, because he didn't really establish the basis. Just by saying that they are not corrupt, it doesn't respond to...
Well, but for the cash receipt one, he mentioned that he had called the minister, and the minister had explained to him, or giving him a scenario of what happened, everything that transpired, and the documents which were attached for him were satisfactory. And so he, being a lawyer, I presume once he had evidence to back it, that's the basis on which he's coming to say that he believes his appointees, those who have been alleged to have, you know, been corrupt, have been cleared for him.
The point is it the business of the Flagstaff House or the Office of the Presidency to be giving people a clean bill of health, to be clearing people of corrupt allegations? We have the Shiraj, for example. We have, you know, other organizations that are investigative in nature and which are statutory. So if you receive what do you call it, a petition or whatever it is, or if you, based on the public outcry, and you want to investigate the matter, like we did in the case of the Electoral Commissioner. A petition was presented and you forwarded it to the Attorney General's office. Why not in this case? Why not in the case of the Deputy Chiefs of Staff? So these are critical questions, and which is why I support Mr. Kwesi Pratt's question that on what basis did the president clear it? And in any case, the documents that were presented, if this cash for seat probe had not come to Parliament for us to have a public sitting, we wouldn't have known what documents were there, what transpired, by blow-by-blow account. So, on that basis, we understand the president is a magnanimous benefactor, but on that basis, we don't know what he knows. So when he says they are not corrupt, how do we get on the same page with him to know that indeed they are not corrupt or that they are corrupt? More so when we don't get the chance to ask the questions that we brought to ask the president.
But Johnny, wouldn't the answer to that question be the fact that, and so even though the president has his details, he also allows for probes into these situations. So this is just his view, which he's allowed to give. But then certainly it doesn't mean it truncates the fact that he opens them up for investigations. So I think it's a two-way thing. In as much as he knows his information, which he can make public, that's why he opens public hearings for us to be privy to whatever information he has.
You know, growing up as children, if you have you go and you're a child and you go and misbehave out there, and you come back home, somebody reports you. Your what do you call it? Your mother or your father may try to reprimand you in their presence, but it will be very measured in the way they do their things. And then when the people are gone, they can properly whip you, you know, outside the public view.
Demons out of you.
Or they will try and say, no, you have not done anything. But when they go, they will deal with you. I don't know, but it's typical of a Ghanaian society. I believe that moving forward, if such allegations are leveled against people, we will allow the state institutions to themselves do or conduct the investigation so that it satisfies the doubt in the minds of people. Know that it's the president that appointed all these persons. And so if he says they are not corrupt, it's just like a judge in your own court. And for me, it doesn't. On that note, I hope that when next we have the Meet the Press series, we'll have a fair representation of questions, and we will take this round the region so that others can have questions. Is a not media general was snubbed by the presidency yesterday. We had 3 of our men there. Nobody was allowed to ask a question, and we think it's quite unfortunate. And we think that if there's some explanation, fine. But if there's no explanation, we take it in good faith. We move forward. We are there to serve the people of Ghana. And good morning, Mr. President. We are ranting.
Yes, security threat and the grenades.
IGP says it's safe. So
we are safe.
I believe the IGP. You don't believe the IGP. You believe the IGP. Do you feel safe?
I believe to an extent, but the reality is there. It's safe. Are you
a security
I'm not
officer?
safe because if it does explode right now, what happens?
But you die and go to heaven. Have you been sinning?
Anyway, guys, that's what we think. But what do people think out there on the street concerning the grenades that have been... the Odofo police is in their custody. But then, are you safe? Do you feel like if the grenades went off today, you still be here, or they can...
We'll go to heaven. Let's run to George.
Will they be able to deal with it appropriately for us? Let's hear what George and the rest of you have to say on the streets of Accra.
Today on Daily Rant, we are discussing the grenade scare, and the police, we are told, have arrested 3 suspects who were in possession of 7 explosive items alleged to be grenades. And this, of course, put some scare in the public when they got privy to the news item. And unconfirmed reports have also linked one of the suspects to ISIS. And so the question is, do you feel safe, with regards to development of this sort? This is Daily Rant. Let's keep talking.
Yeah, I feel safe. At least they arrested them. It's not like we weren't aware and they actually blew out or something.
So how did they come? Or I heard they were even produced in Ghana. So we have ammunitions of this sort in Ghana.
There are so many things. So at so many places in Ghana, every other country, so many people don't know. It's all about the intelligence. At least they gathered that knowledge or the intelligence or wherever, and they picked it up. We should be grateful for God knows how long. We've been enjoying this peace, even though it is by God. Human beings also do their part. I believe we should give them the due credit. They may have certain issues, but then this is the time I think we should search out for their flaws and build upon it. Then we can actually face these things.
Well, I think that what Sly is saying, he has a point, but we should understand that insecurity for the last year to now has been very high. And crime rate is very high. Now it has become like Ghanaians have taken like it is part of life. Even policemen are beaten, right? And nothing is being done. Former MPs are beaten and nothing is being done. I'm saying even Abronia, hold on. You said I must say, no, someone I know. A party member was beaten, right? The police has not even spoken about it. Is that a question asking me?
Yeah, exactly.
You said, am I safe?
In relation to the grenade development.
Look, I'm saying, look, the grenade itself, right?
Now you are coming to the topic.
Thank you. Because we don't feel safe because crime rate has increased since last year to now. But look, we are talking about grenades made in Ghana.
That's what I asked. Is it just from last year?
Are we afraid? But under the Osajifo time, bombs were created under the MPP. So why are we?
No. But why the MPP?
Let's go.
So with my input, if somebody tells me or any security expert comes to tell me that we are safe, it's far from the truth. In the sense that we are not safe. Because taking even the entire world for now, issues of security must be our priority. Do you understand? And I'm looking this from this 3 perspectives. One, if these corporates were being able to move these grenades and arms through our borders into the central city, that's our capital, Accra, then it's very dangerous. One, we need to look, because our borders is so porous. You see, our border is so porous. Security at our border is so porous. Issue of surveillance has to be beefed up, and also issue of gathering data data management is very important. In Ghana, everybody comes and goes. People, you see cars being ridden in Ghana with Lagos number plate and stuff. Do you understand? These are some of the flaws. So I'm looking at this from three perspectives. Now, our neighbors, Burkina Faso and Côte d'Ivoire, got their share, and Ghana is not any other country. So please, we are not safe.
We aren't safe at all. Yeah, because I think it's high time the UN in particular came in to resolve some of these issues. Because honestly, no one does anything for nothing. So why are these people being brainwashed into killing people? I mean, how can you go to a public place? You go, you put bomb on yourself, you go and kill several other people. So I think it's high time that we beef up security. And it's I don't know, but it's rather unfortunate a colleague who tried to treat this one as a political one. No, this thing is never political. This thing is never political. It's a national issue. It's even got. You see, at a point in time, it even goes beyond national. Because when this thing happened in Ghana, at least other countries also they have to take you from us.
Okay, we all feel that terrorism is far from us because we don't look like a potential threat. But the thing is, Burkina Faso and Côte d'Ivoire, they've had their share. And then unconfirmed reports have also linked one of the suspects to ISIS. So it's like anything can happen.
We have never said that terrorism is far from us. We all know terrorism because if Côte d'Ivoire and the rest had Togo and the rest have been attacked, clearly we know that we are not far. So but the point is that we never thought that it will come to this stage. I am saying something. Let us be very honest with ourselves. We are all not safe. Today, hold on. We haven't been safe since. We are not safe. We are not safe. Even if we have not been safe, even if we have not been safe since last year, even if we have not been safe since, it has increased and has been worse because even the police are beaten without fear.
They were able to pick intelligence based on this. This is the time. These things have been happening long. We knew these things will come.
Give an example.
You see, so in Ghana, this is the time that we should actually work on our flaws. That's my point. Work on our flaws. Make sure
your car was smashed last week.
We trained so many people.
Has your car been smashed 2 weeks ago?
That's not me.
Your car was smashed last week.
That's not me.
And you reported.
What I'm saying is,
your car smashed.
Let's just concentrate on the positive.
What has the police done on your car?
You can't actually say the police they are doing nothing.
What has the police done to your car?
If they are doing nothing, so many things would have actually gone worse.
We are not saying the police don't do anything. The police must step up.
Let's as simple as that. That is the point.
But that's what I said.
So let's not.
But we must know that
politically,
violence and crime started from last year to now. It increased from last year to now.
The police are doing their best, but we individuals should also develop this intellectual mindset because people with criminal minds are amongst us. They live with us. I can bet you they have homes within the big, the developed place, the estates within us, and they are moving and moving out. Do you understand? But my issue is that the development has released or has bring to light the porous nature of our security system. So I'm calling on government, various stakeholders, both individuals and agencies, to do their best. We need to invest well into the field of criminology and criminalistics.
Honestly, even looking at developed countries like the UK and US, when it comes to issues of ISIS, I mean, although they're also trying, but they're also left out. They're being bombed every now and then. So to me, I think it's high time we actually engage activities of like crime psychologists. We get these kind of suspects. You see, you have to speak to them. Why do people do what they do? Why are they brainwashed to killing people? Because honestly, if you really want to change the world, if you want your voice to be heard, you don't need to kill yourself. You don't need to kill people to make yourself heard. So I think it's high time that we preach peace and love to them. But when you love someone, what will even encourage you to go and kill such a person?
But you guys believe that USO development has exposed our weak institutions. You know that?
What? Oh,
this development.
We all know our institutions are weak.
Okay.
We all know that's why we are
institutions.
Exactly. We all know it's weak.
And let me tell you something.
That's why we are saying they should work.
We can't compare Ghana to the developed countries. I mean, the government.
No,
hold on. Hold on. Yes, but the development comes to us. But also facing. But the developed countries have a portmanteau of issues that has led to other countries trying to reverse by attacking them. But what has done to other countries? No. What has Ghana done?
Yeah, if developing countries are
much more risk.
No, they mind your issue because you don't even. ISIS comes to a country when they see
and they have issues.
Those developed countries, a violent
Do you believe that?
It goes beyond national.
You can go home, you can just go to bed and sleep knowing that the police is protecting you. No.
George, you have nowhere to run.
Police are
even when you are afraid or not, you still have to remain. It's just prayer. You just need to pray. Exactly. And there's nothing you can do. George, you can go to the bank today. You can go to the bank today, and perhaps they may be there. That's one blast, boom, everyone is gone. You get it? So,
do you know why?
The police are sure.
You believe that police can be equipped to do better?
Exactly, that's the point. That's what we have to do. And it's not really the police, it's the security itself, police, military, or other people.
The police are well equipped. Don't discuss yourself. The police are. The police. They're even talking about protecting shield and all that.
No,
let me tell you. They don't have logistics.
So you are saying every day the police don't have logistics.
They're not.
Every day.
But that's our issue as a country. That is why I disagree with you saying from last year. It is a national issue since you were born.
Look,
maybe since you
being beaten. You are being beaten, you are being killed.
Don't you beat your kid, brother?
I'm saying,
what's the problem? The police being beaten, how do you relate it to grenade being coming in because the police is beating?
David Asante Apechu is the IGP, and then he has talked to the public. They should just cool down their temper. Is it enough?
That's the best.
Is it enough?
That's the best because that's their job. Let them handle. If they fought, then we can accuse them.
That's what they can do.
It is good. It is good. If they actually put fear in us, it's going to be worse because people will start traveling, people will start getting plans. People will take advantage and start being very
So the panic attack, it is good.
Is it enough there?
No, it's the point that
question
no,
as Ghanaians,
that's what we need to know.
Yes, the point
but
is that
the rest is them.
Yeah, it is good. It is good that they've come Ghanaians down, but it does not solve the issue. However, it's going to just make sure that Ghanaians just are very patient and are not panicking unnecessarily. But we must bear in mind that crime rate has
we won't bear. We won't bear. This is a false statement.
And so it is a base setter, right? For ISIS, violence.
One thing they want to be done is the police should be well equipped to ensure they provide or do their work effectively. Let's know what you think about this. Our social media platforms on Facebook, it's News on TV3, and on Twitter, it's at News TV3. Look at them. You can also join the discussion. Keep your messages coming. Good luck.
Welcome back. Let's start off with the Daily Statement. Says we've achieved positive results and government to create 1,000 jobs through greenhouse projects. Put the fear of God in my appointees. President charges Amidu. And review of power purchase agreement. Government saves $7 billion. The Daily Heritage reports this morning that President blasts MPP vigilante groups, describes the activities as disgraceful and criminal. Sack this man over rampant increases in fuel prices. COPEC says so. And Chikata causes stir in court. The Daily Graphic this morning reports that secrets of success are acts unique. President says at media engagement. Parliament to decide on Gitmo 2 Commander Sugar Factory not likely to produce sugar. UCC research team says so. The Ghanaian Times says Chachichi Kata NIB clash at Supreme Court and special prosecutor will prosecute past president and corrupt officials, and government will decide soon on the Gitmo 2. My appointees are not corrupt. That's the banner headline. President declares. The Daily Guide says government rejects 5.7 billion Ghana cedis Mahama Ghost claims, and NIB disowns Chachu. Fear Amidu. Nana on corrupt officials. The Business Finance says government says 5.7 billion Ghana cedis after review of NDC contracts. My guest this morning, lawyer Bobby Bansing. He is a private legal practitioner. Lawyer, welcome.
Thank you.
How are you doing? Happy New Year to you.
Same to you.
And George Neyanda is the Deputy Minister for Communications as well. Chief, good morning.
Good morning.
Happy New Year.
Many happy returns. Good morning to your viewers, especially those from Wotisija West.
Absolutely.
And all those that are watching us, including Fetnat, good morning.
Good morning. And Honorable Theophilus Setecha is a former Member of Parliament for the Ablekuma Central Constituency. Chief, good morning.
Yeah, good
and Happy New Year to you.
Yeah, many happy
I haven't seen you this year.
Yeah.
Quickly, New Year resolutions. I'll start with you, Council. 1 minute. Do you have any at all?
Well, I don't do
New Year resolutions on 31st. I don't.
You don't at all?
No, I don't.
My
year starts from my birthday, so
okay.
I do mine on my birthday.
When is that?
In November.
November.
Yeah.
Okay. So what did you resolve?
That I'll be a better person generally. Okay. You always want to progress and march forward. Yeah, that's it.
See. Nay, how about you?
I think it's a similar situation. The fact that there's a date change doesn't necessarily mean that suddenly things should change, but over a period you need to do a review. And I think that as far as I am concerned, it's about being consistent with hard work, working in humility, being honest, and making sure that I support the vision of my boss and the vision of His Excellency the President, being there for God and family and country.
Great. Theo, how about you? New Year resolutions?
Yeah, for me as a politician, my resolve is to ensure that I continue to hold government accountable. Okay. To ensure that the public purse is protected.
You have inspired laughter. Let's start off. Yesterday, the president...
It's interesting that that resolution was not there when they were in power.
Yesterday, the president met the press. There have been a lot of interesting reviews so far. While many think that the time was not enough, we, a media general, believe that we were snubbed because we're not given a chance to ask a question. 6 media houses, not even a single one was allowed to ask a simple question. And I don't know what your reviews are of the encounter yesterday, comparing it to previous ones, and in fact what we had in 2016, 2017, the president's first. What do you make of the whole encounter?
Well, I must confess that I didn't have the opportunity to listen to the entire creation, but I had the opportunity to listen to some bits and pieces of it. The president, as we all know, is a very good orator when it comes to speech delivery. There are very few people better than him that I have personally heard. So with that, you can't fault him. Some of his answers, of course, were not to my satisfaction, and I didn't expect him to answer every question to the satisfaction of every other person. Generally, it was more of an indication of what his government intends to do along the lines, and some of them I felt that he was not really prepared for those kind of answers, particularly the details that he provided. But generally, it's what has come to be expected of any president when you have these sections where you don't know the questions that are going to come. It's just like an examination. You will not necessarily expect to score 100%, but you must make sure you deliver with confidence, and then you let the people know that you're on top of issues. And I think generally the president exhibited that character.
The president has continually said that he is not in support of the actions of the vigilante groups, and he has given an order to the IGP and other security agents to deal with the matter. But we know that in the past year, their activities were rampant. Yesterday, he blasted them. He says their activities are disgraceful and criminal. Is it enough
I had a few answers from the president that I was disappointed in.
Which
and the vigilante response was obviously one of the things that I was disappointed in. It's not the first time the president is saying that he's giving orders to the IGP and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. Even after the orders have been given to the IGP, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, there was media reportage of the leader of the Northern Regional Division of the vigilante group saying that they are untouchable by the police. It was reported, and no step has been taken after that. I mean, for me, it's just pure lack of political will. And there are people within the MPP who have come out to say that these people are untouchable because of the sacrifices they allegedly made for the party. So the president, I have said it before, and I think it was on this platform, that when it comes to dealing with the vigilante groups, I think the people around the party organs, not the presidency. I don't think it's an issue of the presidency.
But the president is the leader of the party as he speaks. He says he is not in support. He thinks that they are.
Well, but there are party officials who can hold these things in check. Mind you, in Tema, when these people went to disrupt, for lack of a better word, the program that the MPP was having, they said they were expecting jobs. They've been promised jobs. They are not seeing these jobs. If these jobs do not come, then they are going to, what happened in Kumasi will be repeated. These people said these things at a deba where police officers were there. As far as I'm concerned, as a lawyer, if you exhibit an intention to commit a crime, that exhibition itself is a crime. And they were left off the hook, and nothing has been done. What stops party officials? There's a case of the MPP Brong Ahafo officer who's been assaulted.
Right.
He was assaulted allegedly. I don't know whether it's confirmed or not, at an event for MPP members. Unless they want to say that that event was open to people who are not MPP members. It's possible that other people may have come to assault him. But the perception out there is that he was assaulted by members of the MPP because of his utterances against the regional minister. And I read against
the regional minister has denied.
No, I'm not saying. I'm not saying that he's involved. I don't have that capacity. I mean that evidence to say. But that perception is still out there. And I think that as it stands now, no single member or no person has been picked up, as far as I'm concerned, for that particular assault. Right. And so it emboldens them to continue these criminal actions.
Do you see an end in sight?
Yes, definitely there will be an end in sight. I think that there will be an end in sight. But whether or not the damage that would be done before the end in sight can be, corrected or controlled is another thing.
Let me come to you now. What do you make of the encounter yesterday, the complaints flowing from SAME? What do you think?
I think that was a great interaction. I think that His Excellency the President has once again demonstrated his leadership. He's demonstrated his thorough understanding of issues. If you look at the format of the organization, I think that the organizers did a fantastic job. Included media houses from the regions. It's unfortunate that your media house wasn't given an opportunity to ask a question or to make a contribution. And I don't know what the reason is. But to a large extent, if I may.
I want to give you a brief.
No, that is your matter. Okay, let me answer. Let me answer.
A brief background.
Wait, hold on. You've asked me a question about my impression.
I'm giving you clarity on the matter. I'm saying that Komla Kluche got up to go ask a question. Mustafa Hamid, Honorable, says that question time was over, and so he sent Komla away. And then there was another gentleman from a media house who was asked to ask, who was allowed to ask a question after the minister had announced that the question time was over. This is just background.
Okay, so that's what you're saying. I don't know the background to this, but I've said that it's unfortunate that your media house wasn't given an opportunity to ask a question.
Right.
But if you look at the organization versus what happened in July, you can see a significant improvement in the way things were done, in the participation. And in all honesty, I mean, the president hasn't got infinite time for every activity. There's definitely some amount of time that has been set across or set aside for this. And if it was 2 hours and it was running quite beyond that period, then obviously the organizers had to make some arrangements to try and get the program going the right way. So to a large extent, I'll say that it was crucial. The president started by telling Ghanaians where we had come from, reminding Ghanaians where we had come from. And he talked about his achievements or the performances so far, or what his administration had delivered so far. And these were all factual issues. And so it's a clear demonstration that His Excellency the President is committed to making sure that Ghana moves forward, and the change that we promised was clearly demonstrated across the various sectors, across agriculture. He talked about the economy, he talked about energy, he talked about unemployment for the youth, and clearly, if His Excellency the President says that he's not happy with the activities of the vigilantes, it's clearly a downside to what would have been an otherwise great execution over the first year. I'm not too sure that I agree with counsel that His Excellency the President is not doing enough, and if the police are not doing what they are supposed to do, then you blame the president. I mean, can I land? You were talking about you not being satisfied, and that was where you were not happy with, and you were making reference to the activities of vigilante groups. Absolutely. And the impression that I got was that you thought that His Excellency the President hadn't demonstrated enough goodwill or enough leadership as far as that area was concerned. But in your explanation or in your narrative, you were the person or the body that was accountable to the experiences that you had given, in my view, lies squarely in the hands of the police. If somebody demonstrates an intent to do crime, I'm not sure that is within the purview or the remit of His Excellency the President to order for the person to be arrested. You don't want the President to be getting into those kind of things, but yes, the security forces must be up and doing as far as those areas are concerned. So yes, I understand your concern. I'm not sure that you are placing the responsibility or the accountability the right way. That is my view.
I didn't place it at the presidency. I said I feel the party structures have failed the presidency.
Well, then maybe what I expected you to say is that you expect the police to do what they are supposed to do. As a lawyer, okay, it's not even the response. It's not really the legal responsibility of the party to fight crime. Okay, it's a good to do, it's a responsible thing to do. Okay, but as far as the Constitution is concerned, there's a body that's responsible for addressing this, and I thought that is what you should emphasize.
To the extent that this may be an offshoot of the party has not said publicly, though, that these people belong to us, but these vigilantes keep trumpeting that they are an offshoot of the party. Don't you perhaps think that Lawyer Bobby's assertion that the party executive needed to call them to order?
I'm not sure that you're understanding what I'm saying. I'm saying that per the Constitution, okay, there's a body that is responsible for ensuring the rule of law.
That is not in question.
Can I land? Okay, per the Constitution, there's a body that is responsible for ensuring the rule of law. You cannot bypass that constitutional responsibility and then start to talk about the party. Okay, it's nice for you to say that, or the right thing I believe for you to do is to say that let the police do what they are supposed to be doing. Okay, is to call the police to act. Okay, and then you can call on the party. But then if you shift the blame ultimately to the party, then for me, I don't think that.
What is the party's role in helping the state to fight the menace of vigilance?
How will the party help the state? To help the state through the police.
The party are Ghanaians.
But the party will help the state through the police. Okay, that's what I'm saying, that the buck ultimately rests with the police or stops with the police. Whatever activity that anybody is doing, if there's an investigation, whatever it is the police that is a recognized body to address the issue. And that's why His Excellency the President has been consistent on calling on the security forces to address this issue. Okay, now let us also not sit here and say that in the last day there haven't been any prosecutions with some of these things. Okay, we'll be behaving I don't know what word to use, but we'll be unfair if we say that there haven't been any prosecutions. There have been prosecutions. It's gone through the legal process in this country. Okay, people have been prosecuted. Okay, so let us balance it. It's something that nobody is happy about. If His Excellency the President, I mean, I can imagine how His Excellency the President would be feeling saying something like this, and I think that it's a mark of a great leader to admit that certain things that have happened have not been crucial.
Now, let's wrap up on your take. The President says his appointees, including your good self, are not corrupt, and that comes on the back of the fact that questions were asked about the seed for cash, for example, or cash for seed, for example. What do you make of it? Is the President's assertion true that his appointees are not corrupt?
Do you have any reason to believe that it's not true?
No, I'm asking you a question.
No, I'm also asking you.
I don't answer questions.
No, well, we're having a discussion. Okay, you ask me a question, and if I think that you're asking me a question and I know that you know the answer, I can also ask you the question.
I don't know, that's what I'm asking.
Well, it's the facts on the ground. The President stated the number of accusations that had been made against appointees of his administration. I mean, and in all those instances, there have been a thorough investigation. Okay, and in all those instances, nothing had come out. In any case, if you take this recent cash for seeds investigation or probe that is taking place, His Excellency the President or the Presidency had done some work or some investigation or some analysis of the situation, and they had come to the conclusion that as far as the facts that have been presented to them were concerned, they didn't see any reason.
Is it the business of the Presidency to be conducting such investigations? One would ask.
I'm not sure that I understand the question that you're asking. The people that are complaining about certain things that have happened, okay, the Presidency calls for the facts on the matter. The Presidency comes to a conclusion on the matter. the information is made public. However, that doesn't stop Parliament from putting in place a probe. So I'm not sure what you're trying to insinuate by the point that
I'm
you are
just
making.
asking that if, to the extent that we have statutory bodies mandated to conduct
the fact that nothing stopped the president didn't stop any other statutory body from carrying out an investigation.
I think you know. Let's go to Theo now. Theo, so what are your impressions?
But let me just make a point that the fact that His Excellency the President, or the fact that the presidency came out with a position on this cash for cease matter, and Parliament decided to carry out a probe, didn't stop Parliament from carrying out a probe. Whatever the presidency said, or whatever conclusion that the presidency gave, didn't stop Parliament from carrying out a probe. And let us also bear in mind that previously, in the past administration, whenever the minority, there were 2 instances where the minority had brought in a motion to investigate something that was suspected to be an indication of corruption. And the majority and the Speaker of Parliament at that time didn't allow the motion to even pass. It was just pushed aside. So we've moved to a situation where even though the presidency has said that we don't see anything wrong with this, Parliament in its wisdom, says that, listen, let us carry out this probe and let us draw any other conclusions, or to reaffirm what the president is saying.
I thank you very much, Theo. Let me come to you now. The president said they've risen to the challenges and the successes are there to show, the positive results are there to show. Is that your opinion as well?
Thank you very much. Let me say good morning to your viewers. First of all, let me say that the handlers of the president needs to do a very good work.
Are they not doing that already?
Yeah, no, they are not, especially when such media encounter is going to be organized. Time is of essence, yes, but then the president needs to be programmed in such a way that if it is time for him to meet the press, he will have ample time to hear the press. Yesterday, what happened was very haphazard. I realized that most of the media networks were not happy with what happened. It looked as if faces were being looked at before people were being selected to ask questions. This is a media review that His Excellency the President has made request, okay? And we expected that ample time would have been given to the press, who represent the aspirations of the people, to ask the relevant questions that they need to ask. But it was as if the president was delivering another budget or media review of his performance, and adequate time was not given to the press. Just imagine that a station like TV3 could not ask a single question. Look at the coverage of TV3. So for me, it is in bad taste. And whoever organized that thing should rethink. I've always said that, look, they are not handling the president very, very well. It does not allow the president or even the good people of this country to actually assess the government. And for me, that is the reservations that I have, especially with the organization of the program. But let's come to the facts, the basis, the facts that were raised. You know, the issue of contract inflation. Anytime the MPP government talk about contract inflation, I laugh.
Why?
Because look, I was the former chairman for the Roads and Transport Committee of Parliament in the last Parliament. And I quite remember when the president at that time raised the issue of the Kaswa interchange, that the contract was inflated. Myself, together with his then ranking member, really came out to tell him in the face that he had everything wrong. You see, sole sourcing is also part of our procurement structure. Selective tendering, open tender, these are all structures, okay? Now, when you go sole sourcing, all what you need to do value for money audit, in order to have value for money. Because there are some contracts, they are so broad that the nitty-gritty becomes very difficult to actually quantify. It's when the work is in progress that you can actually quantify what the actual cost will be. So sometimes a figure is given. But then as the contract progresses, once there is auditing, you'll be able to what? Recoup the loss. And I can give you so many.
5.7 billion.
No, it is not true.
That was the
it is not true.
says.
Let me tell you.
How do you know?
Look,
it's not
I'll
true?
tell the president in the face. He knows. He knows. It is not true. Let me tell you.
Why are you pointing to
Yes, yes. You see, the period of campaigning is over. Where people mount stage and lie to the public and get away with is over. Look, when this government came into office, you know what they did? Those who were working on road projects, they wrote to them that they've given them up to a certain period to close their contracts. Listen to me attentively, and I can produce documents to that effect, to close their contracts. Now, I have been given a contract that maybe ends in 2016, okay? A government comes in and tells me that, look, I'm giving you up to February, end your contract. So if that contract sum is, let's say, 16 billion Ghana cedis, okay? And as at that time, I've performed, let's say, 7 billion. What is left? It's left with about 11 billion, okay? Now, all these amounts have already been added to our national debt stock, okay? But then the contract has not been fully executed. So if you take away where I stopped the project, and then you quantify those amounts, and then come and tell the good people of this country that you've saved so much on Mahama projects, you are lying to the people.
Did the Auditor General get it wrong then? Because
no,
this was validated.
No, it is not wrong. It is not wrong. Look, if I have a contract document, the contract says my contract is 100 billion. Okay? And that is what has been put into the system. Okay? You come into office, you tell me I cannot perform all these contracts. So where I've gotten to, I should end the contract from there. So what happens? You need to value what I have done. Okay? And then take away what the entire project cost is. So the difference that is left is a saving. Okay? But it has not led to what? Productivity, which would translate to productivity to the people. So when you do these things, okay, and then there is a difference, you don't come and tell the good people of this country that you've made savings on inflated projects.
What should the president
have? It is a lie.
What should the president have said?
The president is lying to the people of this country.
What should he have said?
You see, the truth about the whole thing is that the president should have told the people of this country that, look, when we came into office, because there were no resources, we had to stop some contracts that were ongoing. And as a result, we were able to what? Save this amount. Then you are telling the people the truth. I'm telling the president in the face. He's just here. Look, I'm saying this thing passionately. Because look, for how long should we be lying to our people? Why should we be playing politics with everything in this country?
It's not fair to be calling the president a liar.
Please, look, I know what I'm talking about. When it comes to procurement, I'm an expert in procurement. I know what I'm talking about. It is not fair. We shouldn't do that. Now, let's even accept what the president is saying. That contractors, okay, inflated projects or even presented certificates that they have not even performed. Have you arrested them? Have you prosecuted them? These are basic questions that our president needs to ask. And we allow the president to be chaining these lies to the public. Why? Is that the sort of politics we want to do in this country?
I thank you, Theo. Your point is well
made.
Mr.
President, you can say this to maybe people who don't understand procurement in this country, but not some of us. Please, I'm very passionate about what I'm talking about.
I thank you, Theo. Thank you very much.
It is not fair.
You may take in a deep breath at this point.
It is not fair.
Yes, Bobby.
You said I would get the opportunity.
Yes, you get an opportunity. So I'll give Nai an opportunity as well, right, to reply.
Okay, so what I meant in my introductory remark when it comes to these vigilante groups was I said that I was not blaming the president for what is happening. I thought that it is something that the party structures could handle.
Right.
They didn't have to wait for it to escalate. Now, we all know how political will comes to play when it comes to prosecution of certain criminal offenses. We can't play the ostrich when it comes to that. If the party structures were serious about getting these persons prosecuted, they can't deny that they don't know them. because these people have come to say we are working for the MPP. The MPP has not denied these vigilante groups, even though they have denounced some of their activities. And so I was saying that I'm expecting the party structures to apply the necessary political pressure, for lack of a better word, to get these things prosecuted.
Thank you.
That is what I meant to say.
Thank you very much. Right of reply, I'd rather we not go there. Let's deal with the salvation of...
I have a right to reply. Okay.
But
I think that we
raised another
viewers, matter. I'll respond to that. The viewers have a right, okay, to be educated by a lawyer. If there's crime, okay, there's a body that's responsible for addressing the issue of crime. You don't, and I'm sorry that I'm sounding like an old broken record, you don't bypass the police and put the blame on the party or the leadership of the party. Okay, so that's the point that I want to make. That is a fact. Okay, you call in the police and then you ask the party to support the police. I don't think that until now the party has made any action or has taken any posture that they are not in favor of making sure that these criminal activities are not.
Your point well made. Let's move on now. The child says the president was untruthful.
My brother, it would have been very good if you could have played that portion of what His Excellency the President said, so that all of us on the panel and your viewers could really know what the President said. If you have it, I'll plead that
we'll find it and play it shortly.
There's absolutely no basis for my senior colleague here to be calling His Excellency the President a liar. Figures do not lie. Okay? Figures do not lie. What His Excellency the President said are the facts of the matter. Okay? There's no dispute about it. You can decide to behave like an ostrich, okay, and deny the truth of the matter. And I'm happy that you asked the question. You asked him that, is he saying that the Auditor General got it wrong? What was the question you asked, right?
That was it, yes.
Okay. Have you read the Auditor General report?
I have seen it.
You've seen the Auditor General report. So the President didn't go and plug some facts from the sky. Okay, the President,
but he puts an explanation to it that that if you seize a contract that's already in motion, at the point you seize the contract, you must evaluate what work has been done and quantify it.
What the President said?
Okay,
and let us understand whether what he's saying is what the President said.
Let's take a look at this now. What the President had to say yesterday at the Meet the Press series.
You would recall that throughout the election campaign, we said part of the reason for the difficulties with the economy was the sole sourcing of procurement by government. Let me give you a few figures to illustrate this point. In the year 2016, the Public Procurement Authority had 622 sole source requests. 579 of that number, 77 of that number, 98% were approved, and there were 25 rejections. There were 592 requests made for restricted tenders, and 587, 99.15%, were approved, and there were 5 rejections. A grand total of 0 savings was made through the procurement process. In 2017, our first year in government, 394 sole sourcing requests were made, out of which 223, that is 56.6%, were approved, and 171, 43.6%, were rejected. There were 346 requests for restricted tenders, and 167, 48%, were approved, and 179, 52%, were rejected. Now here is the interesting part. The savings made over the year as a result
amounted to 145 million cedis, $142 million, 1.8 million euros, and 22,400 pounds sterling. As my old mathematics teacher used to say, you cannot argue with figures, and such figures surely provide the incentive to open up government procurement.
Okay.
So that's it.
So wait, this is one of the things that he's talking about. The second one, the second, can I think you asked me to respond.
Hold on, George, I'll let you respond. There was a request to play the tape. He seems to have some red flags about the tape. But are you okay with the tape? Are you okay with the tape?
I don't think this addresses the issue.
Right. Okay. Yeah. But George,
there were two issues that His Excellency was talking about, as far as public procurement was concerned. This is one of them. The second one had to do with what the previous administration spent in terms of energy, or they had the contracts they had signed for energy production. And they had signed contracts that were going to deliver 10,000, is it megawatts or kilowatts? I'm a bit confused. I think it's kilowatts.
Energy.
Yes. Okay. Whereas the peak capacity that Ghana requires, it was 3,800. Okay. So there was excess capacity to the tune of this inflated figure. Okay. And it took His Excellency the President and the Minister of Energy to cancel those power purchase agreements that have been put in place, okay, to save the country from all this money that they had indebted, that created debt for us, okay, and the figures do not lie.
He says that if you award me a contract to say buy this pen,
why you let us talk about what the president said? Yes, you cannot let him set his own question and then we debate. We are not talking about contractors. We are talking about a specific point where there were power purchase agreements that were signed, okay, over and above the capacity
along
of
the
this
procurement
country.
process.
Yes.
And he's raising questions about the procurement process. That, look, if you contract me to buy this pen,
yes,
and I was able to go and get this one, I'm yet to get this one to cap it, and then you say you have seized their contract, we must quantify how much this costs and how much you're saving by not letting me get this. Then you can make that
I'm not
pronouncement.
sure you're getting the point that
Is that not what, that's what Theo said.
I'm saying the matter is that the country's power requirements are 3,800. Okay, at peak. You understand? At peak is 3,800. You go and sign agreements to produce 10,000 units of power. Okay? You commit the country for something that is not at all necessary.
So there will be excess.
There's excess. Totally unnecessary. Committing the country to pay for this excess. The energy minister and His Excellency the President and his administration cancelled those excess contracts and made savings for the country. It has nothing to do with an existing contractor doing some work. Do you understand the point?
I get your point.
And that is where
the salvation of
that's where that 7.2. Yes.
You see, you've not really answered the questions that I raised. Look, even within the energy sector, okay, during that particular time when energy contracts were being signed, we were then under emergency. We needed, how do you call it, energy,
right,
to ensure that this country ran effectively.
The Domso period, you mean?
Government was running helter-skelter to ensure that our energy needs are met, okay? So several contract arrangements were made. Some were able to fulfill their part of the contract, others were not. But even before you came into office, you knew that the NDC government at that time have started reviewing those contracts. And these are things that you came to meet.
Is it your opinion that you agree with his assertion that
listen.
We had signed contracts that were providing energy in excess of what we needed?
No. At that time, we were at a shortfall. Okay?
A shortfall of generation?
Of course. Were you not in this country?
I think.
Of course. No. Oh, please.
Aspect.
No. Allow me. You had opportunity. No.
But don't misinform.
I'm not misinforming. Allow me to speak. No.
Allow him to wrap up.
Allow me.
Then Bobby can have a stake.
You had the opportunity to speak. Allow me to speak. Allow me.
George, allow him to have his day. Yes, Theo, wrap up for me, please.
Even currently, just recently, the car power, the second batch, didn't it arrive in this country? Was this signed under their term in office? No.
So for you, no money has been saved.
These things done. These things were done in order for us to meet our energy needs of the country.
What is the peak energy day for Ghana?
Go on, Theo.
Minister.
Yes.
You don't want us to flow.
No, what is the
Please,
peak energy?
I gave you respect. I gave you the time to speak.
Theo,
I never confront you anytime you speak.
Go on, please.
Please.
Theo, George will not do it again. Please go on.
You see, people are watching. People are listening.
Theo, please
people
go
are
on.
discerning.
Theo, please go on.
Listen, what I'm saying is this. That look, at that time, government needed to resolve this energy crisis head on.
So George is raising the question that we signed the agreement in excess of what we needed, and which is what they have cut off to save money.
Why didn't they return the car power sheet when it came, the second batch?
Can I respond?
No, it means. Look, there has been several energy power arrangements that have been done that are not even working, which are on the books even before even the NDC came into office. And these are things that are being reviewed. The ones that are dormant are being taken off. And that is exactly what you have done.
Okay.
But in terms of the capacity, what will bring us capacity, you've even not added a cent of energy.
Thank you. George,
so why?
Bobby has not had
this is a common knowledge to the people of this country.
George, let me come to you. So, George, why didn't you take the car power? You sent back the second tranche of the car power.
Brother, I said we have a certain maximum need of energy. At peak, it's at 3,800. Okay? So any power generation that takes it to about even 4,000, okay, means that there's some excess even at peak. You understand? Now, for you to sign agreements to generate 10,000, okay, when what we need at peak, let's say is 4,000, it means that there's 6,000 that you've put in there. That is totally unnecessary. It's totally not a priority for this country. And the issue wasn't about capacity. The issue was about generation. Because you had excess capacity, but you just couldn't generate. And you couldn't generate because you didn't have that discipline to be able to run those plants, okay, to be able to generate. And what this government has done is that this excess that you have committed the country to, it is totally unnecessary, and they have cancelled the contract.
Thank you.
And that's what
I saved the money.
That is it. Create, loot, and share. Did you create that false capacity so that you could loot and share the money? And that is what the president is talking about.
Thank you very much, George. Bobby, have a bite on this one, if you may.
Yes, well, I'm no energy expert, so I don't have the figures. What I know for a fact is that, yes,
I'm not asking you to talk about energy. I'm asking you to talk about the president's assertion that they saved us some 5.7.
Yes, that is what, in respect
of
the
Auditor General's
the energy issues.
Right.
What I know
it's
for
one
a fact,
of the many.
What I know for a fact is that yes, these contracts have been reviewed, but the savings are for a period.
Okay.
And so the agreements were signed that over 13 or so years, you are going to provide us with energy at this rate. Now, after the situation has been reassessed, the government realizes that over that period, we will not need that energy because our, I don't know whether generation capacity, yes, would not accommodate that excess. And so if we cancel that agreement, it means that what the government would have paid to these suppliers over 13-year period, the government will no longer be under any legal obligation to pay it.
Great.
And so the government has reviewed and cancelled, terminated those agreements so that there will not be any financial obligation for the government to pay, because then there is no longer an obligation for the other side to supply. Now, it was very easy to do this arrangement because those contracts for lack of better word, let me say, were dormant. It's not as if like the car power that they are bringing now and we must do now. If that one was touched, then there would have been a problem.
Exactly.
Because the other side has already taken enough steps to perform their part of that agreement. Yes. So that is what I know for a fact about these things. So it's a very good step. The government feels that a lot of these commitments in the long run will not have been necessary. And if they have assessed, I'm sure if in the future, in the unlikely event that we face this power crisis again, any government that is in power may have to go back to
the president touts it
arrangement
as an achievement of his government. To share
if
that.
Any government that saves the country money has a right to tout it as an achievement.
I thank you very much. We'll wrap up. I'll take some of your messages now on WhatsApp, and then we'll wrap up with the conversation here. Very interesting comments, eh? I tell you what, very, very interesting comments, but boy, I'm gonna have a bit of challenge with this. It's freezing. Okay, we'll come back to it. But the Gitmo 2 deal came to an end on the 6th of January. So, as it were, legally, one would say they are living here illegally. I don't know what your thoughts are, but the president mentioned yesterday that Parliament would take a decision on it. There was a big question as to whether to allow them to go or to make them stay. What do you make of the whole issue? The president now says Parliament will take a decision, but in between, they are living here, as it were, illegally. You are a lawyer.
Yes. There's a Supreme Court decision on this Gitmo 2. The Supreme Court said within 3 months, the executive arm of government, because whatever decision that was taken on the Gitmo 2 was taken on behalf or as an action of the government of Ghana, not by NDC or MPP. So the Supreme Court directed that within 3 months, the executive arm of government, which is now the MPP, should go to Parliament and get the ratification done.
Right.
That period has expired, but if there's a period within which something ought to be done, and it's Parliament that can do it, and Parliament is on recess, I believe that it does not affect the legality of it. If Parliament, the president has asserted that once Parliament reconvenes, this issue would be brought, and he said the decision is for Parliament. And for me, that was a very, very smart answer. Because at the end of the day, Parliament has the right to either ratify or choose not to ratify.
But it depends on what the executive presents to Parliament.
No, that arrangement has already been done.
Okay.
It's already been done.
Following the Supreme Court.
As in that agreement, there's a written agreement.
But the agreement expired on the 6th of January.
That is what I'm saying, that Parliament's ratification of the document will depend on what is presented to Parliament.
Exactly.
And so if the arrangement is done and Parliament, the executive by the majority in Parliament presents the document in Parliament, Parliament may decide to ratify it or not ratify it. Whatever decision Parliament takes is binding on the presidency.
Absolutely.
And that is why I believe the president said that it will be presented to Parliament and Parliament will take a decision.
Parliament will take a decision, but the big question is, do they go or do they stay? What do you think?
Well, I think that would be a decision of Parliament to take. I mean,
what does the government think?
I'm not.
Are they going? Are they
I'm not in a position. I haven't seen what the executive is requesting of Parliament to do in this new extension or whatever it is. So I'm not in a position to comment on that.
Right.
But if I may, on the 11 billion, okay, I think the bit that you played was not what he was referring to. What His Excellency the President had said was that there was a debt of 11 billion. The audit service did their audit, okay, of which I think 5.5 was approved for payment, and there was an excess of 5.7, okay, that the audit service had rejected, and that's what His Excellency was referring to as the savings.
Right,
yes.
That's correct. Theo, Gitmo 2, to stay or to go? Parliament is yet to take a decision, but we're told that legally they are living here illegally.
Whether they are living here legally or illegally, the most important thing is to what benefits or effect as the good people of this country had as a result of their stay. If there is something that government is benefiting out of it, government should let us know. Because I quite remember during the time of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, the assertion was that there was some benefits.
Was that true?
No, that is what they allude to.
Confirmed
no, I don't know.
Okay.
That is what I'm asking.
How come both of you don't know?
Yeah. Yes. You see, exactly. So that is what they allege when they were in opposition. So I want to find out whether, as of now, there's some benefits that as a country we are going to derive from their stay here. Government should let us know.
I believe
in fact, we demand that.
I believe that you said you were doing it on humanitarian grounds.
That
was what brought to Parliament.
So is that what you are doing now?
Are you aware that something has changed?
No, I'm asking.
Yeah, so
you were in Parliament when the ratification was brought. What was?
No, he wasn't in Parliament.
What was
the document? Was never presented in Parliament.
The last time when it was brought to Parliament after the Supreme Court, it was taken to Parliament for the ratification. Ney was in Parliament at the time. What was contained in that document? Do you know? Do you remember?
No, I don't.
You don't remember? Our boy Fahad from back. Yes.
It's because I know the Supreme Court ruled even when the applicant's solicitors requested for that document from the Attorney General.
I'm grateful. Our boy Fahad from Boku says nobody is safe, but now there are a lot more terrorists and criminals freely moving around the country, waiting for the right time to strike. Let's be careful, Ghana. And good morning to you and the panel. In fact, yesterday's media encounter with the president was not impressive at all. I think the president should desist from the lengthy introduction, and some of the journalists should also go straight to ask their questions instead of beating about the bush. With this, more questions could be asked, and an important station like TV3 and others will also not be left out. But I think the Minister for Information owes the station and other regions which were not given the opportunity to ask him questions an apology. Wisdom in Winneba. This deputy minister should stop being hypocritical. You just told us there are bodies mandated to arrest people. Now you're saying the presidency did its investigation and came to a conclusion. Is the presidency an investigation body? Good morning. His Excellency Nanado did very well yesterday. But the best thing, to my view, is that, in my view, is that he should have allowed the press to ask him more questions because they are at the grassroots and know the feelings of the citizenry, and they hear a lot from them. There should be ample time given to the media. Godfrey Lawer in Kwame Krom, and greetings to you and your crew. The Meet the Press that took place yesterday was the most laziest and discriminatory one. Since the president thinks that his appointees are holy as angels, he will continue to clear his angels from any corruption at all that will please Mystic inside Adwejiri. Thank you very much. Good morning and Happy New Year to you. Government should be quick to act on this security threat, by which means these bombs get their way into the country. By introducing these gentlemen, I can't seem to make head or tail of that. The MPP should know that the real questions that will come, the president cannot answer. Is that why they ran away? Nobody forced them. If they knew that the president didn't have time, why should they let it come on? This is another question of financial loss in the state, you say. Anibaya Isaac Nkungwa says, MPP promised one village, one dam. We need them because our young boys are running away because of jobs. Okay, they are leaving the village to the cities because of jobs. I thank you very much. But Bob, you have an event coming up this weekend.
Yes. The Adisadel Old Boys.
Santa.
They have a very, very important event on Saturday at 10 a.m.
Santa Unite?
No. We are launching our version of what we call the house.
Okay.
It's an opportunity for all Adisadel old students from all walks of life to have an opportunity to influence the decisions of the National Executive Committee. It's the first that is being done by any high school in Ghana. You know, we produced Mr. Bejina Sechi Hughes.
Keep quiet.
Who is an old boy. I know what I'm trying to say. I'm coming there.
Please keep quiet. Fred, don't set fire here.
The current MPP chairman is also an old boy. Mr. Adekoka is also an old boy.
They are
gracing the event.
Thank you.
So we are inviting all Infantine boys.
Don't set fire.
All Achimota boys.
Don't set fire.
The first time.
We have boys and girls.
All Achimota boys and girls.
Thank you very much for your time. Lawyer Bobby Bansing is a private legal practitioner, an unrepentant Santa. Good morning to you, my prof. Mr. Yanka, thank you very much as well. He's a proud son as well. Yes, and thank you very much, George Anda. George Anda is Deputy Minister for Communications of the Republic of Ghana. Honorable Theophilus Petechai is the former Member of Parliament for the Ablekuma Central constituency. The folks in the Futu say your shirt is nice. When am I getting one?
This harmony.
This harmony.
Yes.
I see. Where Ghana?
A very good guy.
Where Ghana?
It's Ghana. Yes.
We'll take a break at this point.
Oh, those are the good old days. For those of you who didn't know, Prior used to have that song, and of course, Katreme, man, fan show. Definitely, if you have something to say it. Don't keep it in there, because very soon you will explode. But we're going to talk about something very interesting, a disease which tends to affect the memory. And of course, many women have been beaten, jailed, burned because people think they are witches, but just because they have lost some part of their memory and cannot recollect. But to delve deeper into this issue with me is Dr. Dennis Bota. He's the president of the Alzheimer's Ghana and also the medical director of HealthNet Medical Center. Good morning.
Good morning.
So many women have been burned, beaten, brutalized, all in the name of, being witches. But maybe that's not the case. What is the medical condition for which some women or people in general who are growing present with memory loss? Let's talk about Alzheimer's.
Thank you very much, and good morning to your viewers. I think one thing that has bedeviled Africa or some parts of the world is this issue about witchcraft, this belief in witchcraft. And it comes as no surprise that the people we call witches, usually women, are people who are usually aged. 60 years, 65, 70, 75, 80 years. True. These are the people we usually target, and people beat them, people burn them, because they have alluded to the fact that you asked them a question, did you eat my children? He said yes. Now, these are people who sometimes have lost their way. They leave homes and they don't find their way back home. They end up in somebody's home, especially at dawn, because maybe they wake up in the night, going to, attend to nature's call. Just after that, they cannot find their way back home. And then they just walk out. Ends up in somebody's house, 5 a.m., 6 a.m., somebody sees them, and you are a witch who have landed from the sky because you were late to get into your home. And therefore, everybody will be called, and then people will just charge on these people, beat them, burn them, kill them. Is it not surprising to us that all these people are usually aged? Yeah. Is it not surprising that somebody like this, who was, when this same woman was 40 years, she was okay, having her children, having her grandchildren, taking care of them. She was 50, she was fine. And all of a sudden, 60, 65, and then she becomes a witch. So we should understand that there must be a medical problem. There must be a certain underlying factor why these people become this way when they grow. And again, if you're also 40 or you're 35, 40, 45, know that, and you're a woman and you're a man, know that it can also happen to you. Certainly. So what we do to these people, stigmatize them, beat them, burn them, and then later we put them in witches' camps and etc. Or we take them to faith-based organizations or churches and they are chained. It can happen to you. Would you also want to be treated that way? But if we have the understanding that when people grow or for other medical reasons, people can get into a situation where they have what we call dementia. And dementia is actually a medical condition that affects the brain. It's a degenerative disease of the brain where as we grow, some people have the unfortunate situation where the brain, the actual proteins in the brain that makes your cognition, your remembrance, your memory function very well, or your ability to learn new things function very well. These things degenerate as these people grow. And other proteins, I mean, I don't want to use big names. Fibrillary tangles, tau proteins rather replace the original thing that was there. And the people just lose memory. They cannot plan their day. They cannot remember new things that they have learned or things that just happened around them. They cannot remember. So you have your grandmother or your mother, and you have given her food. Somebody comes to visit, and she will say, "I'm so hungry. They haven't given me food. They are wicked." And you are likely to get angry with your mother, or your mother or your grandmother or your grandfather who is at home will be seeing things that are not there, or sometimes we would tell you that I put my money here, you have stolen the money, and meanwhile the person has just put it somewhere they cannot remember, and you be accusing people falsely for what they haven't done. Again, they may get to that, as I said again, your grandmother can be at home with you and tell you that, take me home. Famikofi, I want to go home. And you tell the person, this is my home. No matter what you say, you tell you that this is not home. I said, take me home. Sometimes they get to the point of being a little aggressive because, and these are the people that you don't have to argue with. But if you understand that there's something called dementia, of which Alzheimer's disease is the commonest, then we know that they have gotten to that stage. What they need at that point is not stigmatization, it's not to insult them, it's not to beat them, it's not to kill them, it's not to throw them into chains, but rather to have a system of care and support for them.
Well, okay, Dr. Bote, we hear you loud and clear, but for Alzheimer's in particular, what would you say is the cause, and how would you identify when someone has it, apart from the memory loss?
Yeah, Alzheimer's disease, I must say that was actually diagnosed after death. You know, so this Alzheimer's and dementia we are talking about, it's actually a progressive degeneration. It doesn't get better. We can only slow down the rate of degeneration of the brain. But usually when Alzheimer, the pathology who found this, when he noticed this history that comes to him, and these people, when they die, he realized that there's a brain atrophy or a shrinking of the brain substance, not comparable to the normal brain shrinking that everybody goes through. So we say that Alzheimer's disease is not a normal part of aging, because you can have other people aging and they don't go through this memory loss, difficulty in thinking, difficulty in planning, confusion, and all these things that affect them. But a few people do get that. And sometimes the underlying cause may be something that is Alzheimer's, we say that the cause is unknown. But there are other medical causes that can lead to somebody getting Alzheimer's or dementia. This includes hypertension, diabetes, which you know that is very rife in the population. So if you are stigmatizing, beating people who get old and get these problems, people get strokes. And stroke means that you don't have enough blood supply to your brain. Therefore, your brain naturally degenerates. You can get there and memory becomes a problem. People have diabetes, they have other deficiencies. People drink alcohol a lot, and therefore they get what we call Korsakoff syndrome. Vitamin B deficiencies are so low, which you know that our nerves and neurons actually feed a lot on vitamin B, and so these people get to an old age and then they begin to behave funny. Heavy metals, you know that heavy metals like mercury, aluminium, and these things that we never intentionally took into us, but then comes through our food, comes through our water that we drink. So we talk about people using mercury for mining. In the mining areas, galamsey and all these things. Then this mercury, heavy metals goes back into the water. Some way, somehow, it trickles into the water we take at home. And then we take them. The effects are not immediate. But over time, over years, we get to the point that it's accumulated. And then people begin to have this degeneration of the brain. People have, if anybody remembers our old boxer, Muhammad Ali. Yes, you know, he had Parkinson's disease. But if that may have been either genetic or maybe through several head trauma. But then it gets to the place where this Parkinson's also has association with Alzheimer's or dementia. He can't remember anything, his movement is funny. So there are so many possible things that can lead to a person that having Alzheimer's. Nobody knows their tomorrow. I wouldn't know how I'll be like 30 years from now. But then if we all come to the understanding that we should depart from this thing about witchcraft in Africa and know that the fact that the thing comes with, most of them are aged, means that no, let's look at this witchcraft thing again. For me, we are so religious, we say it exists, but for a lot of scientific things that would have studied, they will tell you that it doesn't really exist. Sometimes it's things that people just allude to. Somebody comes and says, oh, now you're in Kuala, say, I've been chewing the babies. Anything you say, because
she doesn't remember, she doesn't understand what you're even asking.
And the person wants to fit into the conversation. Sometimes even conversing with such a person, they might repeat the same thing. You say
over
something
and over again.
They repeat the same thing again. They can't just piece things together. And that is what we are talking about.
Dr. Bote, finally, because of time, let me ask you this. So does it mean that if my grandmother has it, I'm going to have it?
Well, yes, there is a relationship. There is some genetic relationship, so that if you have something in the family, then also when your friend's beard is burning, you fetch water. So it is basically with aging. But then if you have your grandmother has it, or grandfather had it, then chances are you may also have it. Sometimes you see the grandmothers or grandfathers sitting down and they are clapping their hands in the air. Meanwhile, there's nothing. You ask them, what are you catching? You say, I don't even know what I'm catching in the air. So these things are things that has to do with the progressive degeneration of the brain. Sometimes it may even lead to the final departure from earth, but nobody wants to die in such a way, being stigmatized and beaten. So we are saying that as much as a rich person can plan their funeral, that when I die, do this for me. Let us also plan our future and make sure that we destigmatize dementia and Alzheimer's. That when we also grow old, we'll be taken care of very well.
Certainly. On that note, I'd like to say thank you to Dr. Dennis Bote. He's the president for Alzheimer's Ghana and the medical director at HealthNet Medical Center. I'm sure you enjoyed that conversation. We'll bring you more of this next week. We'll talk more about Alzheimer's right here on TV3 New Day. We'll take a break. We'll be back. Stay with us. So let me wish these beautiful people a happy birthday. Leslie Lye, he's the son of Thelma Lye, our makeup artist, head of makeup. And also to Sharon Saki, my friend and sister. God bless you, stay blessed. We love you and happy birthday to you guys. And Leslie, anyone else celebrating their birthday.
Leslie will go to the best school in Ghana, Accra Academy. He will. Yeah, Leslie. His father is a problem, so he will.
But that doesn't mean he has to.
Oh, please, he will.
He has a choice to make.
Good morning and happy birthday to you, Reverend Canon Patrick Okanja-Bot. Here's your birthday today. You're parish priest at the Christ the King Anglican Church. Happy birthday to you. And also to you, Mrs. Sharon Kwao at HFC Bank. This is from Etnam C and the rest of us here. Happy birthday. If it's your birthday today, we celebrate you. Look, this song is for you. This very lovely song. Yes, Kinkeba. Is that like kinky and small kinky?
I have no idea. You know how sometimes you make your own words for some songs?
Like Abiba.
Yeah, I know Abiba,
yes.
Abiba.
But the Kinkeba, so it means it's one big kinky and another small kinky, like kinky and in the
But how will you define that? Because kinky, there's no standard size.
But Babina told me, so it's Kinkeba, you know, it's kinky.
Maybe it's a name.
Charlie, we gotta go.
Yep,
Thursday, yeah? Thursday.
We gave you a good show today, starting
pizza,
with throwback. No, Thursday, no pizza. But it's holiday weekend for Bright. If he was here, he would have started the weekend. So, of course, we've ushered you in slowly with Throwback Thursday. Certainly good music out there. Just to remind you of the old times, what we've missed. They should come back on
Bright is out there catching witches. You know, he has a new software now for, so.
How much did he buy that software
for? It's for free.
They have to investigate.
He's like the inventor.
Oh, nice. Anyway, guys, we'll see you same time tomorrow from 6 to 9 a.m. Tomorrow is Friday, so do join us to give you a good Friday for your weekend. Have a good day.